Hey everyone, welcome back. The lack of friends means that. Carl Jung. Have you ever wondered why some people seem surrounded by friends, while others walk through life alone? What if I told you that according to Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, your lack of friends might be revealing something profound about your inner world? Today, we're diving deep into Jung's revolutionary understanding of friendship, loneliness, and what it really means when we find ourselves isolated. And trust me, this isn't what you think. Jung's perspective will completely transform how you see yourself and your relationships. If you're watching this, chances are you've felt the weight of loneliness, or you're curious about the deeper meaning behind social isolation. By the end of this video, you'll understand the hidden psychology behind friendships, why some souls are meant to walk alone, and how to transform isolation into individuation. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Shadow of Loneliness. Carl Jung once said something that haunts many of us. Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. Think about that for a moment. You could be in a room full of people, at a party, at work, surrounded by family, and still feel utterly alone. Why? Because true connection isn't about proximity. It's about resonance, the modern epidemic. We live in the most connected era in human history. Social media, instant messaging, video calls. Yet studies show that loneliness has reached epidemic levels. In 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General declared loneliness a public health crisis. Nearly half of Americans report feeling lonely regularly. But here's what Jung understood that we're only now beginning to grasp. This isn't just a social problem, it's a psychological and spiritual one. Jung's radical perspective. Jung didn't see loneliness as simply the absence of friends. He saw it as a symptom, a messenger from your unconscious mind trying to tell you something crucial about your development as a human being. When Jung was a young man, he himself experienced profound isolation. His colleagues dismissed his ideas. His friendship with Freud, his mentor, ended in bitter conflict. Jung spent years working alone, diving into his own psyche, confronting what he called the confrontation with the unconscious. And here's the paradox. It was through this isolation that Jung discovered his most profound insights about human nature. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Sometimes, my friends, the lack of friends means you're on the path to becoming your authentic self. And not everyone can walk that path with you. Chapter 2. The Persona and the Price of Authenticity. Let me introduce you to one of Jung's most powerful concepts, the persona. The persona is the mask we wear in society. It's the version of ourselves we present to the world, the roles we play, the image we project. Jung named it after the masks worn by actors in ancient Greek theater. The social bargain. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most friendships are between personas, not between authentic selves. Think about it. How many of your friendships are based on shared circumstances, co-workers, classmates, social convenience, neighbors, parents of your kids' friends, mutual benefit, networking, career advancement? Comfortable superficiality, never discussing anything deep or real. I'm not saying these relationships are worthless, but Jung would ask, are these true friendships, or are they persona-level arrangements? The cost of authenticity. When you begin the journey of individuation, Jung's term for becoming your true self, something interesting happens. The persona starts to crack. You become less willing to play the social games. You speak your truth. You set boundaries. You stop pretending to be interested in things that bore you. And suddenly, friends start disappearing. Why? Because they weren't friends with you. They were friends with your persona. Jung observed this in his own life. He wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Most people don't want transformation. They want comfort. They want predictability. They want you to stay the same so their world remains stable. The story of Sarah. Let me tell you about Sarah, a composite of many people. I've encountered in my research. Sarah was always the fun friend, the one who organized everything, who never said no, who kept everyone happy. But inside, Sarah was dying. She was exhausted from maintaining this persona. She didn't even know who she really was anymore. At 35, Sarah began therapy and started Jung's process of self-discovery. She started saying no. She started expressing her real opinions. She started pursuing her actual interests instead of going along with the group. And you know what happened? Within 6 months, most of her friends were gone. At first, Sarah was devastated. She thought, "See? I knew the real me was unlovable." But her therapist offered a different perspective. "Sarah, those people didn't leave you. They left the person you were pretending to be. Now you have space for real friends, people who love the authentic you." Chapter 3. The Introverted Journey. Jung himself was a profound introvert, and his understanding of introversion revolutionized psychology. Before Jung, introversion was seen as a deficiency, something wrong with you. Jung said no. Introversion is simply a different orientation of psychic energy. Introverts and friendship. Introverts turn inward for energy. The external world, including social interactions, drains their psychic battery. This doesn't mean introverts don't need connection, but they need it differently. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. For introverts, deep, meaningful relationships with a few people are far more nourishing than many superficial connections. The quality versus quantity paradigm. Society tells us more friends equals more success, more happiness, more value. But Jung would challenge this entirely. He observed that some of the most developed, individuated people in history were often solitary. Philosophers who spent years in contemplation, artists who created in isolation, mystics who withdrew from society, scientists who worked alone in their laboratories. These weren't sad, lonely people. They were individuals who found richness in their inner world that society couldn't provide. Jung himself said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people." This kind of self-knowledge requires solitude. It requires turning away from the noise of society and facing yourself. The introvert's dilemma. But here's the challenge. We live in an extroverted world. Our society rewards and celebrates extroverted qualities. Being outgoing, having a large social circle, constant activity and stimulation, quick, superficial connections. Introverts who need deep, meaningful connection often feel like failures when they can't maintain dozens of friendships. But Jung would say, "You're not failing, you're different." And that difference is not a deficiency, it's your nature. Chapter 4. The Shadow. Now we enter perhaps Jung's most famous concept, the shadow. The shadow is everything about ourselves that we've repressed, denied, or refused to acknowledge. It's the parts of us that don't fit our self-image, the anger, the selfishness, the desires we're ashamed of, the aspects of our personality that society has taught us are unacceptable. The shadow and loneliness. Here's where it gets fascinating. Jung believed that one reason people struggle with friendships is their unintegrated shadow. When you haven't confronted your own shadow, when you're constantly trying to be good and denying your darker aspects, you can't tolerate authenticity in others or yourself. You attract people who also wear masks. You form friendships based on mutual denial, and these relationships remain superficial because no one is showing up as their whole self, projecting the shadow. Even more interesting, Jung showed that we project our shadow onto others. We see in other people the qualities we can't accept in ourselves. That friend who annoys you with their selfishness? Check if you're denying your own needs. That person whose ambition bothers you? Are you suppressing your own drive? That individual whose emotional expression makes you uncomfortable? What emotions are you not allowing yourself to feel? When you haven't integrated your shadow, every relationship becomes a minefield of projections. You're not actually seeing other people, you're seeing your own denied aspects reflected back at you. The lonely journey of shadow work. Here's the truth Jung discovered. Shadow work is isolating. When you begin to confront your shadow, when you start acknowledging the parts of yourself you've hidden, you often need to step away from relationships. Why? Because those relationships were often built on your false self. Your friends knew the persona, not the whole you. They might have even reinforced your denial. Jung wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." The journey of integrating your shadow, of becoming whole, often requires a period of aloneness. Not because you're antisocial, but because transformation is an internal process. The gift of the shadow. But here's the beautiful part. When you integrate your shadow, when you accept all of yourself, you become capable of real intimacy. You can be authentic because you're not hiding from yourself anymore. You can accept others' flaws because you've accepted your own. You can form genuine connections because you're showing up as your whole self. Jung said, "The psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. In other words, until you deal with your inner world, you'll keep experiencing the same problems in your outer world, including your friendships." Chapter 5, Individuation, the Lonely Path. We've arrived at Jung's central concept, individuation. Individuation is the process of becoming your true, unique self. It's the psychological and spiritual journey of integrating all aspects of your psyche, the persona, the shadow, the anima or animus, and ultimately the self. Why individuation is lonely. Jung was clear about this. Individuation is not a social process. You cannot individuate in a group. You cannot become yourself while constantly conforming to others' expectations. He wrote, "The man who promises everything is sure to fulfill nothing, and everyone who promises too much is in danger of using evil means in order to carry out his promises and is already on the road to perdition." What does this have to do with friendship? Everything. To individuate, you must sometimes disappoint people, break social contracts, choose your path over the group, stand alone in your truth, face criticism and misunderstanding. The hero's journey. Joseph Campbell, influenced by Jung, described the hero's journey. Every hero must leave the known world, face trials alone, and return transformed. Your lack of friends might mean you're on your own hero's journey. You've left the comfort of the known world, superficial relationships, social conformity. You're in the wilderness, isolation, self-discovery, and you're being transformed. Not everyone can make this journey with you. In fact, most can't. The dark night of the soul. Many spiritual traditions speak of the dark night of the soul, a period of profound isolation and questioning that precedes awakening. Jung experienced this himself. After his break with Freud, Jung spent years in what he called his confrontation with the unconscious. He withdrew from public life. He explored his inner world through active imagination. He filled his red book with visions and insights. He was alone, but he was becoming himself. Jung later said this was the most important period of his life. Everything he would later teach came from this time of isolation and inner work. The paradox of individuation. Here's the paradox Jung discovered. You must become separate to truly connect. Only when you know who you are, when you've individuated, can you meet another person as your authentic self. Only then can you have relationships that are truly mutual, where two whole people connect rather than two personas performing. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But this meeting can only happen between individuated people, between people who know themselves. Chapter 6. When isolation is necessary. Let's address something directly. Sometimes, lack of friends isn't a problem to be solved. It's a stage to be honored. Sacred solitude. Throughout history, spiritual seekers have withdrawn from society. Buddha left his palace. Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness. Muhammad retreated to a cave. Christian desert fathers and mothers chose isolation. Why? Because certain insights, certain transformations can only happen in solitude. Jung himself said, "Solitude is for me a fount of healing which makes my life worth living." When you need to be alone, there are times in life when you need to withdraw. After trauma or loss, your psyche needs space to heal without the demands of social performance. During major transitions, when you're becoming someone new, you might need to leave behind the people who knew the old you. When you're doing deep inner work, shadow work, healing childhood wounds, confronting your unconscious, these processes require focused, internal attention. When you're creating something, artists, writers, innovators often need isolation to bring forth their work. When society's values conflict with your soul, sometimes you need distance to hear your own voice above the noise. The difference between loneliness and solitude. Jung distinguished between these two states. Loneliness is painful disconnection, feeling isolated even from yourself, yearning for connection, but unable to achieve it. Solitude is chosen aloneness, time spent in rich connection with your inner world, restoring your psychic energy. The key is this: are you running away from something, or are you running toward something? So, what does the lack of friends mean, according to Carl Jung? It could mean you're shedding your persona and people don't recognize you anymore. It could mean you're on the path of individuation, becoming your authentic self. It could mean you're doing shadow work, and your old relationships can't accommodate your wholeness. It could mean you're an introvert in an extroverted world, and you need depth over breadth. It could mean you're in a necessary period of solitude, preparing for your next chapter. Jung offers us a radical reframe. Your lack of friends might not be a failure. It might be a transformation. The question isn't, what's wrong with me that I don't have friends? The question is, who am I becoming? And what relationships will serve that becoming? Jung wrote, your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. Maybe you're waking up. Maybe you're discovering that the approval of the crowd matters less than the approval of your soul. Maybe you're learning that one authentic connection is worth more than 100 shallow ones. Moving forward, if you're experiencing isolation right now, ask yourself, am I running from myself or toward myself? Am I lonely, or am I in a period of necessary solitude? What is my psyche trying to tell me through this experience? Who would I be if I fully accepted this phase of my journey? Final wisdom. I'll leave you with this final quote from Jung. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Sometimes, becoming who you truly are means walking alone for a while. Not forever, but for now. Not because you're broken, but because you're growing. And when you emerge from this journey, more whole, more authentic, more integrated, you'll attract relationships that reflect your wholeness. You'll connect with people who see you, really see you, and love what they see. Until then, honor the solitude. Do the work. Become yourself. If this video resonated with you, please leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on Jung's perspective. Have you experienced transformative isolation? Are you on the individuation journey? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into psychology, philosophy, and the journey of becoming your authentic self. And remember, sometimes the path to connection runs through the wilderness of solitude. Until next time, keep looking inward.